I'm Alise Chaffins, and I'm here today to speak with writer and director Scooter McCrae and actors Damian Maffei and Yvonne Emilie Thalker. Thalker? Thalker.
Taylor, close.
About their film Black Eyed Susan that recently premiered at the Fantasia Festival. Thank you all for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Scooter, after kind of a lengthy hiatus, what inspired you to create this film?
Well, the fear of death, basically. And after 20 years, I'm going like, oh yeah, I guess making a movie once every 20 years wasn't such a good idea after all. Maybe I needed once every 10 or 15. So that was part of the inspiration. Big inspiration actually came from my last short movie, which was Saint Frankenstein, about 2016 or so, was scored by the film composer legend Fabio Frizzi. And I was like, you know what? I really want to make a movie just to have him work and score an entire feature. And there's actually that's not as jokey as it sounds. I really was sitting around going like, I want this. I want this in my life. And so that's a part of why the project, any film project, happened in the first place. I started writing a script in 2018 that eventually became this 6 years later. But that was part of the impetus at the time because I love the maestro's work so much, and he was so much fun to work with.
Excellent. Yeah. So, one of the things I thought about this movie, and I was thinking about how there have been all these like break rooms, like where you go and you smash up whatever kind of thing, and like stress rooms, sometimes they're called. But there's been a whole lot of studies saying that they actually kind of increase like aggression and that kind of thing. Did that inform, the writing of this script in any way?
It's interesting. We were actually having a discussion about this earlier to some extent. We were saying like, if you supply a source for someone to take out their anger on, does that ameliorate that energy, or does it mean that now we're over that hump and what's the next? What's the next transgressive thing? Do we have to find a more powerful? I was talking to someone not too long ago, and saying, "What's next for the dolls?" The next thing you have is meat dolls, so you can like literally cut them open and do terrible things, or even like autopsy dolls that are like stuffed with meat. That's what a great way to spend the weekend talking about stuff like this. But yes, I mean it's a valid question, and because I'm in the enviable position of being a writer, director, filmmaker character, the good thing is I don't need a license to raise these questions and then solve them with answers. I just have to raise the questions.
Right.
So I have no real answer here except to say that I will always put my faith in the limitless abyss of horror that is capitalism, and say that someone will definitely find a way to monetize the worst instincts and aspects of humanity as quickly and as profitably as possible. So that would be my answer to that.
Yeah, excellent. So Damien and Yvonne, this film just requires so much trust from both of you, both in like the, nudity aspect, but also just in the, showing of violence. Can you talk about how you kind of built trust with one another for like both of those aspects?
Yeah, I think it was really helpful that our scenes together started out, relatively vanilla.
Right.
Our first scenes together, and I think this is just kind of how the shooting schedule worked out and the script. But things kind of start out more, not as bad. There's some violence, but the hitting and everything was very, very staged, and there was never any risk to me. But that kind of helped build trust. So we were able to kind of start slow, then work our way up to fingers in the mouth, then and some blood, and and work our way up to the more intimate scenes. And I think it's helpful for me coming from a modeling background where I've been nude for painting classes, drawing classes, sculpture classes, and I've been the one painting and drawing and sculpting other, you know, nude forms, and just being a model and working with other models and doing a lot of, you know, artsy nude stuff, that I'm relatively comfortable being nude in a professional setting like that, and seeing other nude bodies in a professional setting. I think, you know, once I'm like in that work setting, I'm like, okay, totally cool. If I see some guy nude running down the street in Brooklyn, no, please put that away. That makes me uncomfortable. But in a professional setting, I kind of just, I'm in the zone, and it's like, you know what? It's just a body, and we're using it to create art. And it's, you know, that it doesn't bother me that much. So I think that's kind of where I was coming from. And then that trust that I was building with my co-stars was really great. And I also just felt safe with all of them. You know, Scott, Damian, Gil, Mark. Mark are all wonderful people, and
He was calling me Derek all last night.
they're
Part of his book.
I know. I'm pretty sure I probably called you Derek at least once or twice. But yeah, it helped that everybody's really nice, wonderful people, and that the casting was done really well. So I think if it was somebody else who had a different vibe, then maybe I would not have felt as comfortable. But I did, so yeah.
Nice.
Well, I've played the bad guy or the villain in a few other movies, like straight up villainy, and I've experienced. There's been people who have not wanted to interact with me at all. You know, keep that mystery and that distance. You know, so they can be afraid. You know, and then I've had, you know, on those same shoots, you know, like great, very friendly, going out to the movies, going out to dinner relationships with people. And I've just found on those movies that just hanging out, getting to know each other kind of relationship tends to work a lot better, kind of create a chemistry, and then you know, a trust, and that I feel like it's worked much better. So that I kind of had that in my head coming into this movie, because I knew there was a lot of, you know, there was violence, there was intimate, you know, scenes. So, you know, and that's how it was. It was just like we showed up in the studio. It was 130 degrees.
Oh my God.
Hottest it's ever been in the middle. It was like eight in the morning, and it was 130 degrees.
Oh my God.
Brutal.
And then, you know, just in fans and stuff, and like you know, I talked with them. There's a lot of talk about cats. Big fans of cats.
Constant conversation with me.
And just, you know, normal stuff, just kind of talking, and that's, you know, that's built, you know, the thing, and you know, it's like, you know, with the biggest danger I was to anything was the camera with the golf club. Oh, guy's gonna be, you know, and Caesar was like, don't worry, he swings things at things for a living in movies.
The line on your face. They covered the camera. They covered the camera with the plastic. They
That
were
was
very
getting
getting any, when I splashed the wine, and is this a spoiler? No.
Oh, it's a dream scene.
It's a dream scene. When I splashed the wine in his face, which was very fun to do, that was my favorite scene. And I got to slap him because he was like, "You can really slap me." I was like, "Oh, awesome. I'm never going to be able to do this, you know, again." Community. But yeah, they, you know, because we're working with very delicate camera and film and everything, so they covered it. They were like, "Are you sure that you're not gonna aim the wine at," it was cranberry juice, but like, "Are you sure you're not gonna aim the cranberry juice in the direction of the camera?" And so we were
so the art could go like this instead. Who knows?
Yeah, we were
Everyone's very
tried to be very careful about that. That was the biggest risk, I think, in terms of safety. Everything, you know, body wise felt very safe. The razor was was a blunt, very blunt, and no risk of cutting anybody. So yeah.
I like
Right.
both the spirit of the movie in that moment, saying you enjoyed being able to slap him with the piano. That's the entire movie in a nutshell, right there.
Yeah, there we go.
Actor just hit me.
And I was like, I don't think I actually have the strength to, to hurt you. So I was like, okay, I feel comfortable doing that.
Take off your brass knuckles.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. So obviously this film pushes a lot of boundaries. But was there
I don't know what
anything?
you're talking about.
Yeah, I know, shocking. But was there anything that you wrote for it that when you actually got into filming that you were like, oh nope, that was a bridge too far, or anything like that?
Um, I'm thinking, no, I mean, I will say, if anything, I probably toned down stuff. I mean, nothing I really want to go into, just because I don't remember offhand. But obviously, in the process of writing the script, I went through many different possible horrifying scenarios that could be going on in the room. So I would say these were the ones that we shot, the ones that are written in the script that we did, are the ones that I thought were the most viable and the politest. So that should give you some idea of yeah.
Right.
I got that monologue, but you did take out that short paragraph where Derek is talking about how the tongue feels at one point, I think.
Oh, yeah,
You were like, that sounds fake.
That's why, yeah, sometimes on set things happen. It's funny, yeah, it's funny you should say that, but yeah. So the stuff I did remove was dialogue that I thought was shit, as
Okay.
opposed to of the other situations. I was like, this, no one. I remember you were there looking at the ready to shoot, and I walked over and said, no one can say this fucking garbage. You kidding? I know the writer's an asshole. I know him personally, and we're just taking it out. So yeah, so that would be the extent of it.
It's like, why?
Very technical.
I remember before the razor blade scene, standing there with my man thong, whatever it's called, on my
Mankini.
And I it got very quiet. The crew was very respect. So it was like, I don't know what it's going on in these actors' heads. So they kind of like wanted to just let us do the thing. And I'm standing there, and Yvonne was there, and I was like, one day, a classmate is going to come up to one of my kids in school, but hey man, I saw your father getting a blowjob from a robot with a razor blade in their mouth last night. And I was like,
oh my God.
I knew it going into it. So, that's
it's
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's really something. um, one thing that was kind of interesting to kind of like piggyback on that is that both Derek and Alan find the use of a child when that comes into like the discussion to be the too much for them. But it's like after you've already agreed to use this sex robot as a punching bag. And I think that's so interesting. So can you talk about kind of like the approach that you took to like taboos and how you kind of like flesh that out some? Because I thought that was so interesting that it's like, oh no, this part's too bad, but this is okay, kind of thing.
When it comes to taboos, I always defer to a quote from one of my favorite science fiction writers growing up, Norman Spinrad, who said that when he writes, he doesn't write to break taboos, he writes as if there are no taboos. So when I was working on this one especially, I was just kind of like, I didn't feel like so much a bulldozer knocking over fences along the way, just as so much as someone who was just kind of like, just feeling the wind and going, okay, let's see where it takes me. So to your question earlier, like what, did anything get cut out? It's like, yeah, plenty of ideas had to go off to the side at points because it could have gotten even far more extreme. But there is so much material to work with here that part of it was just honing down to stuff that was frankly affordable to shoot, on a low budget and in 9 days, right?
Right.
So, but this taboo thing is interesting because it's one of the reasons I've been so terrified recently. Now that we're actually showing it, is that from my own personal whatever, I look at it now, like when I'm watching with an audience, and I'm gonna go, oh yeah, I kind of, just really let the freak flag fly here, didn't I? I didn't really give it much thought at the time. I mean, I don't know if everyone's like this, but I just try not to impede myself. I just kind of go, let's just keep going forward and ignore it. And sometimes it's worked for my benefit, I guess, for the movies that I make. In life, maybe I need to put up a few more barriers, because trying to do that kind of shit in your relationships or conversations can sometimes be can be a little much for other people. So I'm still, even at my advanced age, trying to work around, figure out what's okay and what's not okay. But I usually figure out from the perspective outside, because I can't figure it out for myself.
Right.
I thought that question there, that part, like, I remember reading it, and so, I have kids, and when you find out about the pedopals, I'm reading it and I'm outraged, and then Gil is like, well, you're beating the shit out of someone's daughter. Like, where's the line? When is the age? When is it okay to start beating the shit out of someone? And like Derek and Damian are like, no, I'm furious. Like, you don't try to fucking don't dare you. And I think it's very realistic. And I think it's people choose the things to be outraged about, and then it's and I did talk to several people after we were done filming on other movies. I spoke to various other departments, and they were like, oh, you did Black Eyed Susan, like you were on Black Eyed Susan. These people that had read the script or like turned it down, like effects people or whatever. They're they're like, oh, I couldn't, like the ending there. I was like, oh, like, so that's, but so the rest of it is fine.
Right.
Like, okay. It's like, that's interesting.
That got to me too. Yeah, when I got to the ending of the script, I was like, oh, and I had a moment there where I was like, do I want to be involved with this? But then I thought about it and I was like, I think the ultimate message is a good message, and they're not, the message is, the script is, and the message of the film is not endorsing anything related to that type of thing with children. It's not an endorsement at all. It's more social commentary and a critique of the way humanity is going, and our use of AI and the dark places that it can take us to. And I think Scooter went there with the children aspect of it, because in pretty much any society, I think the children are like the most protected, the most, it's like the, you think about the people you hope they are.
Yeah, we like to say that they are anyway. Yeah.
Any sort of, right. And it's a biological thing that is literally written into our genes to want to protect children, as well as being a moral issue, of course. But it's kind of the ultimate, like, evil is hurting children in any way, or causing any kind of trauma to children. So I think,
Unless I give them Gaza, we won't go there.
Yes, exactly. Agreed on that. But I mean, you can think of the movie even as a commentary on that. Is like they are willing to go and potentially cause, the domino effect of harm on real children in this movie, and that's happening in real life, where governments across the world are bombing other people that are across the world from them and targeting children. And this is obviously something that goes back to, the invention of warfare. But it's especially, I don't know, we're able to do especially heinous acts now with the advent of technology. And I think that is something from the movie that we can take from this, is that, with every advent of technology, like, yes, we discovered the atom and we discovered Einstein and stuff, but, like, without Einstein's wonderful scientific discoveries, we wouldn't have these horrible bombs and Oppenheimer's discoveries, and so it's like with this advance of AI, of course it's going to be going down a horrible route.
Right. Yeah.
But we do, that's what humans do with any kind of technology.
Well, that's why I boycotted Oppenheimer. Fuck that guy. That guy.
I started it
Yeah.
in streaming, but I didn't finish it.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a trudge, but
I'm not surprised.
But the innocent, yeah.
Oh.
You can beat the shit out of adults, but yeah.
Yeah. Hey.
And pets,
You know,
pets too. You can't do
Yeah,
pets.
I'm
One
like-
guy, Susan Chu is the bestiality dog.
oh god,
Right.
Oh,
But
God. I couldn't. I won't be a part of that.
yeah. Left out. I'll stay away from that. You know, we had an interesting thing. So last night was the premiere, right? And there's this scene in the park with Gil, and the kid comes running up with the ball. And there was some, tittering, some uncomfortable laughter about it, like, how this guy's, pedo or something. But when the actual reveal comes, there was no laughter, which I thought was interesting, because I thought the audience was kind of like, it's okay if you how do you say it? If you suggest it. Well, maybe, he's probably just some perv, that's funny. But then when you actually get to the actual hit the wall, or the fact of it,
Yeah.
it's like I hear a gasp or a breath somewhere. It was like, okay, good. So it actually had the power to shock when we say this is a real thing. But when it's just alluded to, there's some strange thing. There's the human reaction of having that laugh if something's uncomfortable. So it went from discomfort to outright, oh fuck, which was good to see in the audience, because I wasn't really sure how that was going to play. So that was one of the interesting things about last night's
shocking,
premiere.
which is it's a reflection of the truly horrible, shocking nature of reality. Just through a sci-fi lens.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think that it does that really well, because we talk about AI, and it has that level of removal from it, and it's like, oh, this isn't real, therefore there's that small level of removal from it, because it's not a real person, so it becomes acceptable. Except, yeah, again, I think a lot of these kind of studies have shown that it really does unlock something that becomes not acceptable. And like, I thought it was just a very, very thought-provoking film. And I really appreciate that. I'm just looking at time. So one last question. Yeah. The scene where Derek tries to help Susan walk was another really fascinating one to me, because it's this kind of blend of tenderness between them, but it also is very infantilizing towards Susan. Can you talk, just about kind of like developing that scene and playing that out, and that kind of how you worked through all that?
It's actually one of my favorite scenes, because as you point out, it is this weird infantilization. There's also the aspect that really for the first time we see Susan kind of terrified. Everyone's beating up on this and that, but the idea of Susan being able to walk on her own is somehow terrifying to the device,
She
right?
can't relate to it.
Yeah, I can't relate to being independent in that way. My legs are for spreading, not for walking. It's also interesting too, because it's, I think, one of the first, if only times we really see Derek like smiling and happy. It's just so happy and pleased with himself to be able to try and help him do this, So there's all sorts of the characters, their impulses, and the crossroads, and the things that are really, I think, reach ahead at this scene more than any other. And it just intrigues me, because kind of like the scene in the car, the Susan device not understanding what music is, and then is I think part of what begins the confusion for the character once finally they get out of that environment that they've been stuck in for so long. So I'm so glad you picked that scene, by the way. I gotta say, because it's one of my favorite. I don't know how the two of you felt about it.
Yeah, it was challenging physically to act like I didn't know how to walk.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And just kind of feel like, I kind of had to practice like, Scooter and I kind of, I think that scene was the one that, if more than any other, we had to kind of talk back and forth about how I should do it.
Because we had to look good for the camera, and also be comfortable for you, and also give this kind of Bambi learning how to walk.
Bambi,
kind of
yes,
quality,
very
right?
new,
Yeah.
fun.
Right.
But who hasn't played with their grandmother's crutches as a kid? So, it's like, okay, this is good. Just act like you're a kid fucking around on crutches, swinging from them, and so yeah, I think it is one of the few times where, or maybe the only time, where Susan is out of her comfort zone.
Strangely, right? Yeah, I think it is.
And she can't, she's doing a very good job of mirroring or / responding to Derek's emotions otherwise. But here she's just like, I don't understand why this aspect of humanity is important to you. Like, why is walking on 2 feet important to you? She doesn't get that. That's the question that maybe if she's questioning things, that would be the question. She doesn't understand that, we are a bipedal species, and that is how we evolved, and that's a very key aspect of
It's nice too that Derek doesn't see the look of terror on your face. He's embracing you, and he's like, he's happy. But only the camera goes in for this privileged moment. It's one of the few times in the movie where we're privy to something that Derek isn't, because once Derek shows up, it's almost entirely from his point of view, with 2 or 3 exceptions.
And she's kind of confused, and I think she comes away from that with a sense of confusion on her face.
I also don't remember if that was in the script or not. I think that was something you came.
That was something I just did in the moment.
Right, that's what I mean. I think like this is great when this kind of thing works. When you're dealing with the great performers here, and there's something you did, and I was like, wait a minute, we got to get this. I want a close up.
That was a really great moment. I love it when those moments happen on set, where I just would do something that I felt fit, and then I would get that confirmation from Scooter, like, yes, do this. I'd be like, okay, I got it, great.
But I love when performers go and surprise me. That's the best part of the job. It's like something happens, you go, whoa, that's not what I saw or thought. That's great.
And Scooter's direction is great, because he allows for that type of thing to happen, that kind of impulsive thing to happen. I remember, I feel like Damian did it a couple times, where he would maybe alter a line a little bit or something, and it would work, and it would be better. And Scooter was very amenable to, like, okay, yeah, that's better than how I wrote it, or that's a great addition, or something like that.
Most writers are assholes, and because I know the writer personally, I was just able to go, no, it's there on the page, but once we're on the stage, there's always a better way to do it usually, or you just got to go with what sounds best. And I didn't want to leave you without talking about the crutch scene here, though.
There was a scene I was looking forward to doing, maybe, one of the top scenes I was looking forward to doing, because I felt that Derek was almost playing house, or starting to, he's kind of
Nice.
falling for Susan. He's starting to lose track of what's real and what's not, and it's this lovely home. He's living in a car, so he's starting to lose that old life, and here's new future robot life, and part of that is now we got to get you walking so we can become a fully formed unit. And I kind of thought about when you're in rehab, when you're rehabbing, I just watched Breaking Bad again, and watching them rehab Hank, and like, you can do it, and I was thinking about that, and I thought it would probably work kind of neat, opposite Susan's hesitancy, or whatever's going on in her computer brain. That's like the first time you're seeing that, and it's kind of the first time you're seeing super happy Derek the last time.
Yeah.
And I know somewhere in the back of Derek's mind, I'm sure he was thinking, hey, the best part about this is that once Susan learns how to walk, she can bring me my drinks.
Yeah. Now she can go get the sandwiches out of the dumpster.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch sports, babe.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all for taking time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it. It's a
Thank you for
interesting,
your
thought-provoking
questions.
Yeah,
film. I really appreciate it. So
thank you so much,
Thank you
Elise.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Pleasure
you.
talking to you. Thank you.
absolutely. Have a great day. Take care.
You too. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.